आप पाप से घृणा करो, पापी से नहीं।
Karma and dharma are very intertwined. Our shastras never talk about morality. They talk about dharma.
अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, मुझी में ब्रह्म है, मैं ही ईश्वर हूँ, मेरे अंदर जो तत्व है वही ईश्वरीय है। इस चीज को समझने के लिए
Sanātana Dharma is that which is eternal. And doing the right thing is eternal. What was moral 100 years ago is not moral today.
how will you define dharma where every country or space or state or people is fighting for what they feel is right? Who's actually following the path of dharma and who's not?
What the Bhagavad Gita teaches you, we don't fight battles like Arjuna fought in Kurukshetra. He was confused and he was in a delusion because he had to fight his loved ones.
हे पार्थ, अपने मन पर कोई बोझ न लो, अपना कर्म मुझे अर्पण कर दो और ये धर्म युद्ध करो.
When we have battles, we are in the same situation. When we face difficulties, what is our instinct?
Someone, there is a criminal who's committed a heinous crime like rape or murder and all. How do you view that aspect from usko maaf kar dena?
And Bhagavad Gita says that the reason why avatars take place is, as he says, paritranaya sadhana vinashaya cha dushkrita.
Uttishthata jagrita prapya varani buddhat. Arise, awake, and strive for knowledge. Namaskar. Welcome back to this episode of the Indic Pen. Life messy lag rahi hai, stress, choices, dilemmas. आज प्रिया अरोड़ा बताएंगी कैसे श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की विजडम 2025 की लाइफ को सिंप्लीफाई कर सकती है। प्रिया अरोड़ा एक ऑथर हैं और उनकी लेटेस्ट बुक लाइफ इज अ बैटलफील्ड हाल ही में पेंगुइन से रिलीज हुई है। इस किताब में प्रिया ने श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की टाइमलेस टीचिंग्स को आज की रियल लाइफ स्ट्रगल्स, स्ट्रेस, रिलेशनशिप्स और करियर बैटल्स के साथ कनेक्ट करके कंटेम्पररी टाइम्स के लिए प्रेजेंट किया है। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं इस डीप डाइव कॉन्वर्सेशन को, जहां हम समझेंगे कि गीता की विजडम आज के फास्ट पेस्ड वर्ल्ड में हमें क्लैरिटी, करेज और बैलेंस कैसे दे सकती है। लेट्स ड्राइव राइट इनटू दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन विद प्रिया अरोड़ा. Priya, welcome back again on the Indic Pen. I'm so delighted to have you back here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your current book takes off on a very different paths than what you wrote about in your last book, Rama. It's a different era. It's your interpretation of the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. My first question to you would rather begin from the point that the modern day battlefield is very different from the kind of battlefield that Arjuna experienced in Mahāvākyas. First, you need to why don't you start with making us and our viewers understand as to how the point from where Arjuna starts, and that's when he has lost all hope, seeing his relatives on the opposite side, and he wants to keep the bow down and he doesn't want to fight. What is it that should stop us from keeping that bow down today?
So you're right in saying that life is full of challenges. But what I wanted to actually make clear is that even though we don't fight battles like Arjuna fought in Kurukshetra, we have the same issues that he felt. His problem was his mindset. He was confused and he was in a delusion because he felt that he had to fight his loved ones. That was a difficult situation for him, and he was in a dharma sankat. Now this dharma sankat was because on the one hand he was a kshatriya and a warrior, and a kshatriya's duty is to fight. So that was duty on the one hand. On the other hand was his family and his loved ones, his guru and Bhishma Pitama, his whom he respected so much, were on the other side of the battle. So now which one should he choose? So he was tempted to leave the battlefield and run away. Now what it is about is that in life you cannot escape. When we have battles, we are in the same situation. when we face difficulties, what is our instinct? We want to run away from it. We run away from things that we don't like and we run towards what we like in life. So it's called raga and dvesha. Raga is intense liking for something, intense attachment. We chase that. And what dvesha is what you intensely dislike. And we run away from that. But that's not possible. You actually cannot run away from life. Because wherever you run, you don't escape problems. There's no utopia. So you actually have to confront problems. You can't run away from them. So what Sri Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita is it's a mind management. It's not religion. So what he does is he teaches Arjuna how to develop his mind to the point where he is on top of his problem. He's no longer confused. And that's what we need to learn. It's the same lesson. For him, it may have been that battle situation, but their mindset is the same regardless of what your problem is. So today, it may be a health challenge. That is a battle. It could be problems with your kids. That's a battle. It could be a relationship issue, battle. But each of those battles have the same solution, and that is fixing your mind. Because if you fix your mind, you fix your life. That's basically it.
Let's go to the complexity again, the complexity of the battlefield. While you drew very nice comparisons to how you can view this battlefield in the modern day context, but the complexity of the human mind has also gone very high. Now the complexities of human minds are much more, how do you say, the definition of evil and good has actually also aggravated in a lot of ways. The definition of evil in those times is very different from the definition of evil today. And another thing that Shrimad Bhagavad Gita actually says, where Sri Krishna tries to say, is that in the current context, if I ask you, so if we go back to the definition of evil, how do you really view evil in today's world? If, say, suppose there is someone, there is a criminal who's committed a heinous crime like rape or murder and all, how do you view that aspect from the point of letting go, or usko maaf kar dena, ya not really holding grudges against it's so the point where you say that आप पाप से घृणा करो पापी से नहीं, इस context को how will you really justify to a young person who views it in a very black and white way, and where there are rules and laws now in the modern day world which actually make sure that the criminals are brought to justice and they are punished. So how will you define that if we have to view it from the Bhagavad Gita times?
Well, Bhagavad Gita doesn't say that someone who is an adharmi should not be punished. It doesn't tell you to do that at all. What Vedanta says, and Bhagavad Gita is Vedanta essentially, Vedanta says that every single person or animal actually, anything that you see in this world is divine. Why? Because we are all a manifestation of that same existence. So inside, nobody is evil. Nobody is in their essence evil. Not even the worst sinner. So where does evil come from? Evil comes from our form. But the moment we are in a form, we have what they call the three gunas, the sattva, rajas and tamas. And the mix of those three gunas are what makes you good or evil, basically. Now, that is within your control. To be good or evil is a choice we make. So if you are evil, if you are follow a dharma, then you have to be punished. none of our shastras say you should not be punished. In fact, all our Devi Devtas carry weapons. And Bhagavad Gita says that the reason why avatars take place is, as he says, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. So then, if you're saying that they don't need to be punished and you must forgive them, then that doesn't hold water then. So we have to be careful over here of
So do
how
you
we
think
interpret
the
this.
interpretation, that's what I
We
was
have to
about
be careful how we interpret it. So when they say punish the sin, not the sinner, because the sinner inside is actually divine, but the sin that person is doing is the problem. So you have to punish that sin. Which is why Duryodhana the whole Mahabharata happened because of that. Why did Sri Ram kill Ravan? Because to punish the crime that he did. Of course, you try every way to make them repent. But if they don't want to, then you have to. Dand is a very important part of our shastras. So we don't believe in pacifism. We shouldn't confuse pacifism with just punishment. Just punishment is very important in our shastras, including the Bhagavad Gita. Which is why Krishna tells Arjuna to fight. He says, no, this is a dharma yudh. You must see it from that point of view. You are a Kshatriya and your duty is to uphold dharma. If dharma is in danger, then you have to fight to uphold it.
Before we move ahead, just a small reminder to hit the subscribe button. But then how will you define a dharma when in today's, and if we look at the geopolitical situation, how will you define dharma where every country or space or state or people is fighting for what they feel is right, what they feel is just to them? In such a deeply polarized world, especially in terms of politics, and you see that wars are breaking out, the whole world is in a situation of
Turmoil.
chaos.
Yeah.
How will you define dharma, in terms of who's actually following the path of dharma and who's not?
So we have to understand what dharma means. See, a lot of confusion happens because we don't really understand what dharma is. And we take dharma to be either religion or morality or righteousness. And when you think of it, well, religion it is not at all. Morality and righteousness are a part of dharma, but they don't explain it fully. And why? Because if you see, morality is very rigid. It's about right and wrong. So where we have confusion is because in today's world, we look more at morality than dharma. So why is dharma different from morality? Dharma is about doing the right thing in that particular context for the good of the many. So for what they call lok kalyan. So when you are doing something without selfishness, without looking at your personal gain, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do and it's going to benefit the many, that is dharma. Which is not what we do today. We confuse dharma and morality. So we think that we are right because we are looking at it from a very different lens. So, I'll tell you a short story because this explains it, how Sri Krishna explains it to the Pandavas. Because they ask the same question about dharma. They're confused about dharma. So, he says that there's a sadhu called Ghoṣik who's sitting by this river bank. And suddenly a man comes running by and hides behind a tree. And the sadhu sees him. And he knows he's running away. Then these three people come chasing him. They're dacoits. And they come and they ask the sadhu, they said, have you seen somebody here? And the sadhu thinks, if I lie, then I'm a sadhu. That's a sin for me to be telling a lie. So I better tell the truth and tell them where this person is because I have seen him. So he says, yes, he's behind the tree. And these guys go, they rob him and kill him. So now you have to ask, did the sadhu commit a dharma or an adharma by telling the truth? So morality would say he was being moral because he told the truth. But according to Dharma, it was wrong. He should have lied. In this context, lying was Dharma, would have been Dharma. And this is how we have to interpret actually both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. A lot of people say, oh, but in the Mahabharata, Sri Krishna tells Yudhishthir to tell a lie, Ashwathama hata, and then he kills Droṇa by chal, by...
True.
People say this. And that's because we misunderstand Dharma. Now, if you read the original Mahabharata, it explains this because Dronacharya, first of all, he was a Brahmin. He should not have been picking up arms. So he was, first of all, going against his Swadharma. Okay, fine. He did that. That's not the reason why he should have done this. He was a master of astras, as we know. And he was using his Divya astras on ordinary soldiers, killing them en masse. This was completely against battle rules. It's an adharma, actually. Because the rules were, like have to fight with like. If you are a Maharathi, then you don't fight with some ordinary foot soldier. It's an unfair battle. You fight with another Maharathi. So, like Karna and Arjuna, yes, they were equals, they could fight. But you don't put Arjuna against, some foot soldier. So, Dronacharya had broken the rules of battle and he was literally wiping out battalions unfairly. And so Krishna tells Yudhishthira this. He says, you will be wiped out. There's no way of stopping him. Now, when you're in this dharma sankat, where on the one hand you're trying to prevent an adharma from happening, but to prevent it, you have to lie. Because that's the only way you can prevent it. So what should you do? Which is the higher duty? You can't do both. So that's why he says, in this context, even if you are telling a lie, it may be immoral, but it's not an adharma. It's a very sensitive thing and you have to know. See, because in the wrong hands, it can be misused. So you have to be like Sri Ram was, a dharmagnya. Someone who understood the subtleties of dharma and therefore never crossed it. He's called Maryada Purushottam because he stayed within those boundaries of dharma, which is do the right thing in the context for the good of the many. So every action he took was with that in mind, including the killing of Vali, which is another thing that is raised by many people. But anyway, I've gone on about this.
No, it's... and I will come back to it because, it's still, you still need to answer as to who finally decides what's dharma and adharma in today's world. But before I
Can
go
I answer
there,
that?
Yeah, please.
Because it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, sure.
So, this again, our epics, they answer all these questions that we have today. Because they're age-old questions. Yudhishthir asks Bhishma Pitama this question when he's on his deathbed. He tells him, he says, how can you know what is dharma and adharma? How can you tell me what is dharma? Define it for me. So, you know what Bhishma says? He says, I can't. Because it's very context-based. And it keeps changing. And there are no set rules. There are certain qualities that you associate with people who are dharmic. That is, akrodha, that not getting angry easily. Shama, forgiveness. Dama, self-control. Asteya, not stealing. Indriya nigraha, controlling your senses. These are all qualities that you associate with people who are dharmic. But what happens in a dharma sankat, that only that person can decide at that moment. You see? So, the question you asked me is, how can you know whether it's dharma or dharma?
No, but who decides?
Who decides? You yourself decide.
You yourself decide.
No, but there is, you are your own judge and jury in this.
True. Very close to this is another aspect that Bhagavad Gita highlights, and that's of karma. And if we look at again and try to set it and fit it into today's context, how would you see this theory sit in the random things that are happening around, the randomness that's happening around in the modern day context, where the ideas of what's moral, immoral has changed completely for many. The young people especially, have a very different idea of morality than what we used to have, or maybe we had a, a very different idea of morality from what our parents or grandparents had. So with every generation, the definition of morality, definition of all the other aspects that attribute to a dharmic entity have changed.
Changed.
So in this randomness, in this chaos, how does
Dharma fit in.
karma
Oh,
fit in?
karma
The
fit in.
theory of karma fit in.
So karma and dharma are very intertwined.
Hmm.
Because if you practice dharma, if you are a dharmic person, then your karma will be according to that. You will build good karma basically. So they are very intertwined. But you had mentioned morality, and here there is a distinction. Our shastras never talk about morality. They talk about dharma. And why do they not talk about morality? Not because morality is bad, but because, as you said, morality keeps changing. What was moral 100 years ago is not moral today, and what's moral today may not be moral tomorrow. So you cannot run your life based on morality which keeps changing. And I'm not saying you don't follow the morals of the time. What I'm saying is that there has to be a bigger picture in your mind where morality fits in. You have to fit in morality with dharma, marry it to dharma, because dharma is eternal. And why is dharma eternal? Because if, again, going back to the definition of it being the right thing to do in the circumstances for the good of the many, that can never be outdated.
True.
See, that's why the Ramayana story is about dharma. It's about a man of dharma. And Brahma, when he comes to tell Valmiki to write this story, he says that this story will last as long as there are rivers and mountains on earth. Why? Because it is a story of dharma. Now, if it was a story of morality, it won't last. It'll only be for that time, for that Treta Yuga and for that time that he was there. But dharma is everlasting. That's why it's called Sanātana. So the meaning of Sanātana Dharma, we think it's religion. But actually Sanātana Dharma is not religion. Sanātana Dharma is that which is eternal. And doing the right thing is eternal. It's never out of style. So I don't know if that answers you.
No, absolutely, it does. It does. You also quote the Mahāvākyas like Tattvamasi and Aham Brahmasmi. I'm not wearing my earrings today of Aham Brahmasmi, but I've specially bought them for myself. But these are too profound for a modern day audience to understand. When you talk about Aham Brahmasmi, मुझी में ब्रह्म है, मैं ही ईश्वर हूँ, मेरे अंदर जो तत्व है वही ईश्वरीय है. इस चीज़ को समझने के लिए how do you suggest that a person, say for example in a regular life, who
A
has
young
to
person who's
who
not
has to
thinking.
pay his EMIs,
Yeah.
who has to meet his deadlines, how would he understand, how do you expect him to understand such profound or even experience such profound
Right.
philosophies of मेरे अंदर ही वो एक
Right.
ईश्वरीय तत्व है.
So, it's a question of awareness. So, we all know that the body is temporary. That we all know that. The body and the mind are here today, they won't be here tomorrow. There is an aspect that we have, and that is the spirit aspect. That also we all know. That we don't pay attention to it, but we know that we are more than the body. Now, what happens is, if you are conscious of your spirit aspect and you live based on your spirit aspect and not only for your mind and body, then you are living a life of dharma automatically, because you're living at a higher level. So what is the difference actually between an animal and a human being? We have to ask ourselves this question. They say that aharam, which is food, nidra, which is sleep, and maitunam, which is reproduction. This is common to animals and human beings. There's really no difference. So why are we different? Why are we special? The only thing that makes us special is that we can be aware of our divinity. They are not. They are also divine. A dog is as divine as me. But the difference between me and the
It's
dog
the question of awareness.
is aware. I am aware of my divinity. I know that I have a spirit. I know that I can function at a higher level. So we even though we're not consciously aware of it on a day-to-day basis, you see, the good actions that we do are because we are functioning at that higher level. So if you take a tiger and it sees an injured deer, it will zero in on that deer. It's not going to think, oh, that poor deer is injured, let me go and help it. No, it says, I'm hungry, deer injured, food. It's acting on instinct. But as a human being, if you see that, your reaction, not all human beings, but if you're a more enlightened human being, your reaction will be, let me see if I can help. That is when you're acting based on your higher self, because you're not acting on instinct. You're acting based on your buddhi, your dhi, which they call in the Gayatri mantra. It's a prayer for dhi, which is your power of discernment. So for a young person, I would always say, be aware of the fact, just consciously be aware that you're more than the mind and body. Just put that thought in your head. You don't have to do anything. Just put that thought. In fact, the reason we wear the tika, the ritual of the tika is for that. Because when you put the tika, this is your third eye. You're reminding yourself every morning, you put the tika and you're reminding yourself, I am
the God.
Aham Brahmasmi. I'm
I'm
more
the
than this
divinity.
mind and body. So now we put the tika just mindlessly. We are not really thinking of Aham Brahmasmi. We just put it. It's become more a tribal sign. But it's not a tribal sign. It's a sign of the fact that we are living at a higher level, that we should be living at a higher level. Because if every morning you tell yourself, Aham Brahmasmi, your day will be very different. You will not, the way you interact with people, the way you deal with people, will be completely different if you act at the level of the dhi and not at the level of the mind and body.
That's your 2-minute ritual to spirituality.
Yes. Just tell yourself, Aham Brahmasmi. That's all. You don't even have to change anything. And if you keep telling yourself this, you will find yourself changing automatically. Because you'll function at a different level.
Before I let you go, Priya, and there are so many aspects in your book that we could individually pick. And after all, there are 18 chapters in the
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita, and every chapter, while weaves at the end, towards the end, the main idea of dharma.
Yes.
But it also, every chapter in itself is a teaching of a new kind,
Yes,
for a
absolutely.
human being. And I think, and this is the most important question in today's time, where pluralism is taking over the senses and sensibilities of people. People have their own ways, and we in Sanatana have never been averse to the idea of pluralism. We always believed in it.
It's intrinsically pluralistic.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it is not so with the other faith systems. And in that context, how do you see your book doing what probably many others have tried to, but probably they still have that barrier of religion and faith that comes midway, which comes in between them picking up a book.
Book like this, thinking it's
Yeah.
all about religion.
Yes.
Well, I myself thought the Bhagavad Gita was all about religion. So how am I to say what other people should think? Till I actually went into it. When I studied it, I realized that it sits above religion. So, Swami Vivekananda said this. He said about Vedanta, he says, it's not really religion, but it's the mother of all religions. So all the principles that you have in Vedanta, they are not religious principles, but you will find them in other religions as well, because they are the norm of the universe. These principles, they are for everybody. So I always say that the Bhagavad Gita it transcends religion. We should not think of it as a religious book, because what is it teaching you?
People
It's
will have
teaching
their
you-
own views on that.
which they may have, and you can't change people's views, but I can only say that it talks about managing your mind to the point where you can manage your life. Now, is that a religious principle? I don't think so, but there may be people who think it's religious, and they have the right to think that. I mean, I'm not going to change people uh, that way. But if you look at it for what it is, that's all it is. It's a way of managing your mind so that you are on top of life and you don't, feel that you can't handle things anymore. That was Arjun's problem. He just was in a panic attack and he sat down in his chariot and threw his, as you said when we started this talk, that he threw down his bow. But at the end, he picks it up.
Correct.
He picks it up and he says, Nashta moha smritir labdha. My delusion is gone and I know my purpose now. So that's what the teaching is, which in my mind is not a religious teaching.
Well, I do hope that with you on the mission of letting and making people aware of their purpose in life through your books and writing, I do hope that more and more people pick the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, they pick your book, but they also pick the Bhagavad Gita for the very reason that it enlightens you and takes you to a point where you realize that it's your everyday life
Yes.
that you're managing through it. And any question ever you have, you'll find the answers in the Bhagavad Gita. And probably that is the reason why in India we are still to do it, but many of these Arabian countries are including it in their school text
Yes.
as part of their curriculum.
Yes.
So there must be something really powerful about that text that it continues to be relevant even after thousands and thousands of years. And I'm so glad, Priya, that you are doing the work that is much needed, because today's youth, I feel, needs that little nudge and guidance for them to get that clarity as to
Yes.
what's really religious
Yes.
and what's about dharma.
Yes.
Which
yes.
are two
the
separate
two
things.
separate things.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, I'll just leave you with this, that what the Bhagavad Gita teaches you, in what it gives you as a gift, is two things. Sukham, which is contentment, and abhayam, which is fearlessness. So if you want to be content and fearless, this is the way you can be so.
And I can assure you I've experienced it myself. Thank you so much. And that's why we bond so well together. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time,
you.
Priya, today. And we will look forward to having more conversations with you on this and detailed conversations on each chapter whenever you're here. Again, thank you for making time.
Love to come anytime, Lipika. Thank you.
Thank you. Every civilization has stories worth remembering. If you want to be part of reclaiming the Indic narrative, subscribe to this podcast right now and share it with those who value our heritage.